KCAA Radio, Loma Linda, where no listener is ever left behind.
Here's our music. All right, all right. Hello, world, family, and friends. Welcome to the E Factor Radio Show. I'm your host, Cornelius Bryant, and today we have not one, we have not two, but we have three special guests. And before I introduce the guests, let me give you a little background or whatever you want to call us, about why they're here. I know, with all the fires that was going on in California, and they were talking about, we ran out of water and this and that. And so I had the opportunity to go visit one of the water reclaim facilities here in Southern California. And thank you to the General Manager, Stephen Tucker, at the Water Replenishment District. And so I got a chance to see firsthand some of the things they do with the water, and also to learn exactly how our water system works. And so what I do now, because a lot of you may recognize the person to my, which way is my hand going? Is my hand going left? Is it going right? Is it going here? Is it going there? But anyway, you may remember her from our last show with the National Society of Black Engineers named Marla Madhavedine, but we have somebody else here. And so what we decided to do today, we're going to give them time to go through this. And then, every now and then I may say something like, huh? That way we can try to get a little better understanding of our water situation. So that's why we call this Understanding Our Water System. And these are going to be the professionals that's going to explain these things, because I can almost explain it, but then I can really not. If that doesn't make sense, it doesn't make sense to me either. But anyways, we're going to go first, and we're going to introduce Normella, and we're going to let her tell something, because if you notice, I don't know if you can see, but you can't see, so I'll do a play-by-play. And sitting in front of her, 3 or 4 inches away, is a white hard hat, and she's going to tell us the reason for this and all that good stuff. Normella, take it away.
Hey, thank you. Yeah, I'm Nirmala Mahadevan. I was on the show a few weeks ago, so for transition, we were talking about National Society of Black Engineers, and in the 2 weeks ago, we had 4 of us here, and this week is the National Convention in Chicago, and we just found out yesterday that our Los Angeles chapter got the Collegiate Program of the Year award for our Region 6, which is California, Washington, Alaska, Hawaii, and Utah. So that's the transition, but it was very exciting to get that. But today, this is National Women in Construction Week, so I've got my construction hat here, and we're here to talk about water. I work for the Department of Water Resources with the state of California. I'm not representing the department today, but I have had 8 different jobs related to water, and those jobs have been related to any kind of water infrastructure project. So, for example, from funding projects to planning, design, operation, maintenance, regulation. So I can talk about those experiences as we go today, depending on what you're interested in.
Wow, so there's a lot of different things that goes into water. It's just not like drip, drip. Okay, all right, good. So now, I've said a little bit, but I'm going to let you introduce our next guest. And this is the person with all the knowledge. And so we're going to sit here.
I don't know about that.
And we're going to sit here and we're going to get some insight, because our time doesn't allow us to go fully into it because it's so complicated. And then as we get into it, we're going to bring our special guest on later. But anyway, introducing.
Yeah, you. Oh, no, Alec, yourself. It's your turn.
Hi, Cornelius. I'm Alec Mackey. I run a firm that recruits people to work in the water industry. So I've got to thank you so much for taking this time to dive into water.
Yes.
Many people don't want to talk about water. Water just comes from the tap. How boring could it be, man? I'm here to tell you it's one of the most fascinating things that we can talk about.
It is. I know when I was at the facility touring it and all the things you see, I was like, I never think about that. Like you say, you just think you walk up to the tap, you turn it on, and there's the water. Because that's the only part that we really care about, is that when we turn it on, there's the water. But there's so many other things that go into it. So we're just going to sit back and let you explain to it or give us some idea about it. And then we'll bring in the other person. Then we'll let you guys go back and forth and just enlighten us on it.
Yeah, well, I think your perspective when you were there at the Water Replenishment District, which is recycling water, was to try to understand what the tanks and the pipes and all that stuff is doing. And I think one of the most important things people should know is that water is all around you. It's underneath you. If you think that it's coming from the river to your tap, it actually goes through a lot of treatment processes, and a lot of people are working to make sure that water is fully abundant, safe and clean, pure to drink, and is always available for us. So, when you think of water, be sure to think of the people. One of the things that's most important to know is it comes from the groundwater. 80% of Californians get their water from right underneath their feet. So that is an enormous resource. Think of it like a bank. We put water into that every time it rains. We recycle water. We put it into that groundwater bank. And that way it's always there so we can pull it up. And then the other interesting thing that you and I were talking about is water is constantly rising and falling in our communities. So we use a lot of water in the morning when we're getting ready for work and we're washing and the kids are getting ready, and then we use a lot at dinner. So every day the water district, they fill those tanks and those pipes all around you. They fill those up with water and they go down because we want to use water really quickly so it's clean, safe, and pure. And at the end of the day, you flush that water away. An operator has to take and clean that water up so it can safely go back into the environment.
Wow, it's when you say that word flush, the word flush usually is symbolic of toilet flush.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
That's correct. That's
wow,
correct.
so I don't know. I guess people out there think, oh, no, I'm not going to drink water anymore. But flushing, that's an interesting concept of, because usually when you flushing the water, you're flushing it along with other company. It's just not the water by itself that's being flushed.
I'll tell you. So we call it the 3 Ps. The only things that should go down the toilet are pee, poo, and puke, and toilet paper, maybe a 4th P, because this is a natural system, right? We take water from the natural environment, we use it for a few seconds, and then we flush it away. That water that gets flushed into our wastewater systems needs to be purified and clean and safe because it's going to become someone else's drinking water. In the Mississippi River, they put that water in and out of that river 17 times. The same thing happens here in California. People up in Sacramento, they use the water, they flush that toilet, they clean that water. Operators in Sacramento clean that water, and then it goes into the Sacramento River, and it'll eventually come down here, where it gets purified again. So water is constantly circulating and cycling.
Wow, so we're using used water.
All the water we've ever had is the water here on Earth. It is the
Right.
same as what the dinosaurs were drinking.
Wow, it's amazing when you think about it, especially, I keep going back to the flush part, because if you think about it, the millions and millions of people flushing, all we're doing is recycling the water. So it's being used again. So if every household was to boycott flushing, we run out of water.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much. It's one of the greatest medical breakthroughs that ever occurred, sanitation.
Right.
I know nobody wants to think about it, and nobody thinks about it, but that's our job. That's what we do every day, is keep people alive. So if you don't have proper sanitation, you're going to have typhoid fever, giardia, cholera, even in 1800s, and that was a brutal time to be alive because the types of illnesses you would get and your life expectancy wasn't very long.
Right.
Today, because of sanitation and wastewater operators, wastewater treatment, proper drinking water, and chlorination, we can live much longer without those diseases ever impacting us. And so that's why it's so important that these operators and people support the water system, invest in the water system to protect it and keep it safe and clean.
Wow. Speaking of operator, is our operator ready? In a few minutes. Okay. So let's just go back to where you were talking about, like in the 1800s and all of third world countries, I guess they say, with water. They get their water sources from mainly like rivers and things like that. But like you say, then if the water's not clean, the death, it spreads, and you have all these people dying. Yet here, and we're just going to stick to America, that we're taking the actual recycled poop water and we're purifying it and we're drinking here, and it's some of the cleanest water in the world.
It is some of the purest water in the world. And California is one of the largest users of recycled water. So the largest advanced water treatment, or pure water facility they're called, is in Orange County, and it recycles over 100 million gallons per day for the Orange County area. Now that water is run through the wastewater treatment system, so that's 10 steps. It then runs through another 5 to 7 steps at the groundwater replenishment system. And then it is pumped up to spreading grounds in Anaheim, where it filters back into the earth. We call that kissed by nature, because the ground actually purifies water as it moves through it.
Okay. You know what we're going to do now? We're going to bring in our third special guest in a few more minutes. When he gets ready, we're going to be signal. We're going to have the signal, and he's going to go, or something like that. But in the meantime, kissed by the earth. So we were going through all these different cycles and all that stuff, and then we get kissed by the earth and we drink it again. So let me ask you a question. As far as bottled water go, because you say the water is constantly moved, so there's nothing that builds up in it. So what about bottled water? If it sits around for a while, what happens to it, if you can touch on that?
Yeah, so bottled water, I think I would need to go to the studies that have been done. And what's important to know is bottled water is basically tap water that's just been refilled and filtered and marketed, and is a convenient product. Even I use bottled water, but it is tap water unless it says natural spring water. But the main concern, and one of the biggest things that operators and researchers and engineers like Nirmala are focused on, is microplastics. So all of this plastic has been an amazing invention in our world, but it does seem like it's leaching what's called microplastics into our water supply. Anything in our water will get into our bodies, and so we have this rising concern about microplastics entering our bodies. And so I think there'll be, in the future, a movement towards less use of plastic, more use of safer plastics, constantly evolving.
Yeah, 'cause I know it's funny because I heard some on the news a couple of weeks ago, and they said this guy, he was sick. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with him. And then after further all these tests, they come to find out because he had plastic trapped in his body from drinking or whatever he was doing. And so that's what made him sick. So you talk about all these little small particles of plastic in the drinking water or whatever it is that we use, the containers, and it builds up in your system or in your brain, and it causes problems for you.
Yeah, tap water is made to be safe. Again, scientists and researchers are using the best science that we have to find the safest methods of treating this water. But for any reassurance, like a charcoal filter is a great, like a Brita filter, because even the big treatment plants, like Water Replenishment District, has granulated activated carbon filters, which is basically charcoal. A giant Brita filter, basically, is what your water district uses.
Okay. All right. Is our guest online? Hello, guest online.
How's it going?
Good, good. I see you and I have the same Barbara. Good. All right. So now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to step back for a minute, and I'm going to let Alec introduce you, and then we're going to let you tell us a little bit about yourself. Okay?
All right, sounds good.
All right. Hey, Caleb. So as I was telling Cornelius, the water workforce is currently in a retirement crisis. So we are recruiting like crazy. About 1/3 to 1/2 of the water workforce is retiring. So I've known and watched Caleb move through several positions very rapidly, and I'll let him tell him his role now. But Caleb is a fantastic example that if you've got the spirit and you want to go get it and you can work hard, man, you are going to go far in the water industry. So Caleb, why don't you tell us about your title and where you work?
Well, currently where I work at right now is I'm actually on the private side. I'm a chief plant operator for an advanced water treatment facility in LA. It's the private company that I work for is Veolia Water North America. We currently operate and maintain the West Basin Municipal Water District in El Segundo. So currently, like I said, I am a chief plant operator there. I currently hold a grade 5 wastewater treatment cert, as well as in process of taking some more certs here coming here soon. Kind of how I got here, just kind of starting from the very beginning. I was a junior in high school taking free classes. That led to me seeing how much money I could literally make. You think about it in a crazy way that you would see what people will see is things floating by. And I'm like, oh, you're gonna pay me that much to do that? Okay, all right, I'll try that. And sure enough, I ran with it. I ended up getting hired by the age of 20, where I spent some time in Orange County, where I worked for Orange County Sanitation District for about 5 years. Went back to Eastern Municipal Water District for, in total, about 7 years. Then I went to Western Municipal Water District for about almost 3 years. City of Riverside for about 10 months before taking ultimately the position that I'm at now. So each time I've moved, I typically have gone up in the scale as far as a position and job title goes. So I've been in this industry for about 16 years. So a lot of movement, a lot of things have happened in my time, just from the very beginning till now.
Okay, so you're the plant operator. You're in charge of the whole plant operations? Chief plant
Yeah,
operator.
yeah, the chief plant operator. So pretty much everything kind of falls on me. So when it comes in terms of compliance, I'm making sure that the facility operates and maintains our discharge permits. There's various different things that we look at. Um, we have a laboratory individuals that actually runs the lab test for us, and a lot of times they'll tell us things that are happening in the water that we may not be able to see. So in terms when that happens, then we start to analyze the process and then ultimately start making decisions to get things changed to correct those issues that could start to potentially show up. So overall, the overall responsibility as far as maintaining compliance and maintaining safety is pretty much my top priority as the chief plant operator.
Okay. I'll let you two talk for a moment now.
Can I add something?
Yes.
So Caleb used to work at a treatment plant, and I took some NESB students there, and he did a nice tour for us, and they were very appreciative of understanding what's involved in a treatment plant. It was like a 90 something degree day, and it was good because that's the reality. I mean, you're not always outside, but sometimes it requires being hardcore, right? Because these operations are no-fail operations, right? You don't want the water to, you want it to keep flowing out of your tap, right?
Ah.
So these are very serious jobs, very rewarding. I think we had planned a 2-hour trip, but the students asked so many questions, we were there for 3 hours, right? So it's just a reminder that even today, right now, at Water Replenishment District, they're doing a career fair from 9 to 3, and they're just explaining to the public how to get into the water industry, and they're helping with resume reviews, interview like prep. So there are opportunities like that that the public can take advantage of.
Well, Caleb, sell the water industry. What's great about our jobs and what we do?
Well, it's tough, because there's a lot of fun things, there's a lot of cool things that are always happening in this industry. This is one of the only jobs that I can honestly and true-heartedly say, like, every day is always something different. You'll never get bored. If it's not one thing, it's something else, right? There's a lot. I mean, it's only scratching the surface. If you've ever been in a facility, if you've never taken a tour, I highly suggest reaching out to your local agency and taking a tour and kind of see what they do on a daily basis. Kind of like Nirala said, we work rain, snow, storms, wind, you name it. We're out there. We're in it every single day, protecting the environment. That's one of our jobs is to protect the environment as well as human health. If you think about it, what happens if you have issues at a wastewater treatment facility, right? You wouldn't typically think, right? Most people typically what happens is you flush your toilet and you forget, right? That's typically the saying we'll have, you flush and forget. Well, there's individuals such as ourselves that we don't forget. We know exactly where it goes and what we have to do to get that water treated. The water from the process from the very beginning, it's black. It's, if you just close your eyes, that's how black the water is coming in. And then by the time it leaves our facilities, it's cleaner than your bottle of water that you drink from the store or comes out of your filter. Like our water is very good and very clean and very safe. Certain aspects of it we may not use just for the thought of it, but overall the water is very safe. So it's a career that will always be around. You think of essential workers, police officers, firefighters, medical personnel, right? They are very essential, but what happens when your house is on fire, right? If the firefighters have no water, your house is going to burn. So that's just kind of one of the things, like how the utility aspect of it plays hand in hand with the essential workers. So in terms, we have a very important job to do. So we consider ourselves to be just as essential as they are. Their roles are different than ours, but we're like, it's like the left hand is shaking in the right hand, right? We're fire and ice, we go together. So very, very fun.
There's, Caleb has his treatment plant in El Segundo, and then there are 600 other wastewater plants across the state with anywhere from 10, employees to Hyperion in Los Angeles has hundreds of employees. It's like a little city. And then the water districts, there's 4,000 drinking water districts or somewhere.
Well,
from various
there's
sizes.
4,000 or 5,000 which serve more than 100,000 people. But then in total in the state of California, we have 8,000 water systems.
There you go.
So some are just serving 3 or 4 people. But
Water systems.
8,000 water systems.
System, not water works or buildings, but systems. So a system means there's
Distributing water to
Right.
potable
Right.
water. I'm
potable.
talking.
So that means a system means there's many things involved in it, not just one.
You got
and
it.
you have
You got it.
how many again?
8,000
8,000.
approximately.
Plus the 600 wastewater plants, so 8,006. All of them need employees. All of them
Wow,
need certified
wow.
operators.
And and that's good because something that Caleb said that really is what made me think about this show after our tour is because he says that it's up to them to make sure that the water is supplied there for when fires happen. And so I learned something very interesting during that tour is that because in front of my house, there's a fire hydrant. So if my house catches on fire, they're right across the street, they can put it out. So I feel good about myself. Like, man, if a fire happened to me, I ain't got to work because the first thing they have to do is put my house out and work their way out. But when you look at that, what they were saying about that, you have a 30-inch pipe, but yet this is the pipes underground. But when it comes up to a smaller pipe that goes to the hydrants, and that those hydrants are actually not built or set up to take the amount of water like when we had all the fires. Because even though they said we ran out of water, like you said, there's millions and trillions of gallons of water underneath the ground, and with all these systems we have. So can you just give me a quick idea or just inform us on what happened when they said we ran out of water, even though we have millions of gallons of water underground and in all these systems?
Cornelius, I'm so glad you asked that because from a water professional's perspective, we want people to ask and to learn and get the facts.
Right.
Like, what are the facts on the ground and what's actually happening? And no one asked us. It was kind of just made up facts. So let's get to the fact of the matter. Number one, like you said, there are 150 billion gallons. There are like 14,000 acre feet of water underneath LA County in its basin, unlimited amounts of water. The second thing is we go by standards and specifications, what the engineers like Nirmala do and what they need to build the water system to meet. That's called a spec. And what the firefighters have specified is 2 houses on fire for 2 hours. You have to, at least that's the bare minimum, and actually every water district wants to surpass that. But that is what the systems are designed to do. So all firefighters, academics, and the water industry are saying we cannot fight a massive wildland firefighter across thousands of acres with unlimited water. Because the fourth fact we need to get to is the pipelines, just like you said. So think of it this way. I was trying to do a comparison. up in the hills and the furthest reaches of our communities, the end of the streets, the end of the pipelines, those pipes are a couple inches, 4 inches or smaller. The big trunk lines where the LADWP and the water districts in these fire areas can move a lot of water are called trunk lines. They're 30 inches. They're massive. They move millions and millions of gallons per day. But it's like your body. So near your heart and going into your brain, your arteries are very, very large. But down at your pinky or your big toe, it's tiny. And it's the same concept. Your big toe can't get 1,000% more blood suddenly because of the constrictions of your arteries. Now, if we were to build giant pipelines to the end of every lane and street up in the mountains and the hills, you're talking billions and billions of dollars. So there are things everyone needs to do, but there is a reason the water system is built this way, and it's not to deal with this climate. We need to do some other things.
Right, because Caleb, so at your facility, since you're doing all the recycling, all the water, and you're distributing the water, give us an idea. Let's say, walk us through a day when these fires are going on. You have fires everywhere. What does your plant do? What is your procedure? Or does it stay the same all the time?
So my primary focus on the facility that I work for, when it comes to like potable water, for example, I don't deal directly with potable water. I deal with more of the wastewater side of it. So let's say you turn on your faucet and water goes down the sink. You go to your favorite restaurant and they're cleaning your plates and that water goes down the drain. That water gets conveyed to me and I take that water and treat it and clean it and get it to the drinking, it's pretty much drinking water standards at the facility that I work for. And then from there, we treat it even further, which we then eventually ended up pumping it back into the ground. And then from there, the potable water side will eventually pull that water out as it gets filtered even more so through earth, through the natural filtration processes that the earth does. And then when the facilities pull it out, they treat it even further, which then ends up in turn filling potable water lines. Now, there are some areas in the communities around, you probably see them maybe around in San Bernardino or wherever you may live, you may see these things they're purple pipes, they're called recycled water. Right? That's Title 22 water, and it has to meet a certain standard, and it can be used for various different things, just not human consumption, right? It'll tell you don't drink it, but that water is, in theory, is really clean. It's actually like pool water in its own way. So you can use that kind of water. So to my main focus and my main role is to keep water flowing out. So whenever the demands go up, we'll see it. We have different flow meters on site. We have different pressure gauges. All of a sudden, we might be cruising along if you're in your car and you're driving down the freeway and you're hitting 60 mile an hour, but then you need to go around a car, right? What do? You step on the gas. Hopefully, it depends on how much you step on the gas. It's going to depend on how fast you go. But nonetheless, once you step on the gas, your car downshifts and it goes around and you do whatever it is you're going to do while you're driving to gain more speed. The water system, in theory, is pretty much the same way. Everything is based off of demand. The moment demand goes up, pumps start kicking in, water flow starts going even faster to meet those demands. Because on our end, I don't deal too much, like I said, with the potable water side. So basically regular fire hydrants and tap water. But from what I understand and know, that at any given point in time, there has to be a minimum pressure that is maintained at all times. So the moment that pressure starts to drop, pumps start kicking in to force more water that way, which is kind of to Alex's point earlier about water flowing through or blood flowing through your body, right? It is all based off of how big your arteries are in order to supply more water. So you can only force so much water through. So it really depends on where you are.
Wow.
Yeah, I think West Basin and Caleb's Veolia operations is a good example of interconnectedness that we're moving to in this new era of water. And that is, we can produce any type of water for any particular use. So his facility produces 5 different types. The refinery, needs one type of water, and the super pure water is used for something else. But then the landscaping, it needs that purple pipe, which is treated up to a certain level. But there's other movements of this interconnectedness that paid off in this fire that I don't think many people talk about, and that is Metropolitan Water District invested in interties between State Water Project water that comes from Northern California and Colorado River Project. And they built a giant lake out in Hammett called Diamond Valley Lake to store billions and billions, 6 months of supply. They were worried about earthquakes, but because they had that lake, they had all the water that they needed, and they're like a higher level, or a wholesaler, we call it. So if somebody, a water district fighting a fire, calls up and says, send me more water, all of these little interconnected and backup water supplies suddenly became, or Caleb's, ability to switch to different supplies. That flexibility is exactly what we needed in that disaster. And that's what happened. They supplied a lot more water where it was needed, when it was needed.
Wow.
To kind of add a little bit to what you were just saying there, Alec, I'll use an example. I've only been with the company that I work for just briefly. And then there was an incident where we were not able to send certain quality of water out, but we were able to supplement with potable water. So we're able to use basically drinking water to keep the process going, to be able to make sure that if we don't have water necessarily going out, we can supplement and add this additional water to make up the difference and make up those gaps. Because, water is used for everything. You mentioned that we produce 5 qualities of water. Right, there's the high pressure, low pressure boiler feeds. There's the Title 22 water. There's the barrier water. There's a waste that we have. It's called a brine water that leaves our facility and goes back to LA County. And all those qualities of water, if any of those qualities of water go down, more specifically anything that's tied to recycled water, we give water to, like, the oil refineries, SoFi, the Porsche experience that's in LA, all the various landscaping areas that need water. For at any given reason or time that we need to supply water, we can always switch and move over to potable water and supply more.
So, this reminds me, Cornelius, of how you started. You said, how is it different, in America versus other countries? But California is also different from other states. So we have droughts. We don't have as much water as some other states that get much more rainfall. So we are dependent on, I like to remember the statistics from 1980s, which might have changed, but 75% of the population was in Southern California, but 75% of the water is in Northern California. So the state, specifically my Department of Water Resources, was created to move water from Northern California to Southern California. And Alec mentioned the State Water Project, right? So it involves the state working very closely with the federal government, basically the United States Bureau of Reclamation and the Corps of Engineers. It's a very complicated system in California. People visit from other countries to take a tour and to understand how we're moving water around the state. So that's different. That's a supply, right? How do we get the water? Our climate is changing. We were dependent on snowpack in the Sierras in Northern California as a reservoir, right? So it used to snow, and then the snow would start melting in spring and summer, and that would be a water supply in the river. But the climate's changing, and the amount of snowpack sometimes melts early because of warm rains, like these pineapple expresses that come, sometimes melt the snow. So it's complex, the climate's changing, and that's why we have so many people working on this project, or on this in the water industry, to figure out how to change with the times. It's been challenging. In the news you will see that the federal government also has been making decisions which, but the state, even from our California Natural Resources Agency secretary said this week, we are going to continue operating in California based on science, So there are challenges coming, and we've always collaborated very, very closely on a daily level with the federal government because we have shared infrastructure to move water around the state.
Right. When you said it, I think it's interesting because I know after the fires, they were saying that they're going to release more water from up north. And so you're thinking, okay, so how do you release more water from up north? And everything's tied together from Caleb's and all these operations. So can you give us some clarity? Because a lot of, even myself, I was, okay, so are you trying to say that the water up north and they were not giving us enough water? So how do you release that water? You know, what's the process? Do you release the water from there, then it goes down, it flows to Caleb's department, or it flows to where we were at the water district? How do you do that? What's the process?
I'm going to let Alec answer, but I just wanted to say we have a public affairs office at the Department of Water Resources. You can go online and Google it and ask them some of these political questions. So I'm just representing the sorts of jobs I've had today, but Alec might be able to share something.
That's good.
Yeah, I've got a passion for it. As water professionals, Caleb, Nirmala, and I, we can see like X-ray vision. We can see that the entire state. We can see the water underground and how it moves. So it's a great story. I'd love to share it. It's important to remember that the Central Basin is what's called a terminal sink. All the water that flows in there, it goes nowhere. It can't empty to the ocean. There's no rivers from Northern California to Southern California. We had to build the State Water Project aqueduct and the pumps. So in the winter, when it's raining like this, that sink is full. In fact, if you remember, the Tulare Lake reappeared up in that area last year because they had so much rainfall. Right. So that is just another water bank. It's sitting there as water that can be pulled in when the LA Basin is short. The LA Basin was not short. It is not short right now. The groundwater basins are at their level. We have access to Colorado River, regular state water supply. They actually just want to leave the Kern Water Bank, it's called, as a bank account. Think of it like a certificate of deposit, right? You're not going to run over and get that because you have your checking and your emergency fund, which are our aquifers that are underneath us. So any water that was released, it just tumbled into an aquifer and is going to sit there. We don't want to move water in winter. Why? Because it's raining. Right. We want to move water in the summer and the late fall when there is not enough and we need to replenish locally right underneath our feet. But in the winter is not when we need this water to be moving.
Wow, that's interesting because you're doing stuff. It's just so well thought out. And that's one of the things that impressed me, even now with listening to you, because, you know, we think of water and then it goes, oh, there's no water. So we think, oh, we're out of water. You know, and they tell you, oh, okay, preserve water and stuff. But there's actually more than enough water. It's just the delivery system is where the issues can come in sometime, correct?
Yeah, I think, yeah. And I got to be honest, our infrastructure is old. It is very challenging because, you know, few people know that you're paying twice. You got to pay for water, and then you got to pay for wastewater. Yeah, Caleb needs a paycheck. We got to pay the wastewater operators, and we got to prevent cholera and all that bad stuff from occurring and protect our environment. So you pay twice for water. It is very challenging for us to continually deal with all of these environmental, chemical, changing climate issues to keep the water flowing. But we do, and we get it done. But that is sometimes delaying maintenance. Right. And you can see in other countries, if you delay maintenance too far, then it will fall apart. So I would say that the amount of water we have is acceptable. We can make it work. We can always make it work. It is maintaining and developing these pipes and these people even. I mean, this is really high-tech stuff we need to remove all these new chemicals, microplastics, perfluorochlorates, PFAS it's called, that, you know, clothing and other manufacturers just didn't know better and dumped it everywhere in the environment. And now we are responsible for developing the high technology and the investment to make that happen, to get all that stuff out of the water. So I think the challenge is investing and convincing people it's worth putting money into the people and the pipes and the pumps and the systems to protect the water.
Right, 'cause I thought it's also interesting because, you have the engineers here, but they have other people that work there, like just carpenters, electricians, and all these things to make things happen, to make things keep flowing. And you talk about job opportunities. So what are some of the job opportunities that are available besides engineering?
I could answer that one for you.
Yes, sir.
Got it. Yeah.
So, my primary background is come from the public side. I spent 16 years pretty much on the public side, moving around, and then ultimately ended up on the private side as of basically a month ago. So as you look for career opportunities, it's endless, right? When you look at let's say one public agency, right? If you look at that public agency, you probably all you think is that's just a really big building or a really small building, depending on how your perception of buildings are. But inside that building, it's like a tree, right? You might have a trunk that reaches up, but then you have all these different branches and leaves, and those are the departments, right? If you want to be a meter reader, there's meter readers. If you want to go work in warehouse, customer service, internships. I mean, there's so many opportunities that you can get into. It's really endless. There's so many departments: water quality, laboratory, environmental compliance teams. There's just so many opportunities. There's always going to be a job for someone, and within those jobs, they're pretty secure. Everybody needs water.
Yeah.
You can't function these agencies without everybody playing a part. I'm just a small part of it, right? My goal and my role is to maintain compliance, make sure water is in and out, water doesn't back up into the streets, and you can keep flushing your toilets and maintaining safety, as well as keeping the environment safe, as well as my guys safe who are on site, making sure they get to go home. That's even another department, safety and risk management. There's so many contributing parts and moving parts that are in this industry. Again, it's endless. There's a job for somebody at somewhere. If you go on BC Water Jobs, bcwaterjobs.com, and look, you will probably see hundreds of jobs posted there. You can go to governmentjobs.com, just type in water. You will see endless mechanics, electricians, instrumentation, SCADA technicians, IT. I mean, I can go down a whole laundry list of positions and titles that are there, but ultimately all those positions, we all tie together. I can't function without a mechanic. All right. If a pump breaks down, I'm not a mechanic. I mean, I can try and fix it. I can YouTube it.
No, Caleb, stay away, stay away.
Right. So I mean, you can
The
try.
trades stick to their lanes.
Yeah.
But you know what? I stay in my swim lane, right?
Yes.
The mechanics, they're professionals. I can't function without those guys. The electrician guys, they're the same ways. I can't function without being able to supply power to that pump. We have computer systems that are very highly technical. If you ask me to explain it, I couldn't tell you. I know how to use it, right? It's like a bathroom. You know how to use it, but how it was designed and how it was built on the computer side of the world, I don't know. And that's where I have to have a great team. And I have a great team where I'm currently at right now. It's one of the best teams that I've ever had. But the point is there's so many positions and people that need to be here in order for us to be successful. I can't be successful without having other people. I'm just one part of the puzzle, right? There's a lot of different pieces of this puzzle that ultimately paint a picture to be able to supply reliable and safe water.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, that's part about what Alex said earlier, but I mean, as people age out, we need to have people come in to fill those positions, not only the existing ones, but for the new technology and all the things that's to come in the future to keep it going. And so I'm glad you said that information about how they can become employed in the job opportunities. But Alex, that was one of your things too when we're talking, because to fill these positions, fill these roles, because a lot of time people just don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, because when you think about water, you think about people work there. We think about the water company where we go pay our bills.
Yeah.
That's to the extent of what we think about for as water goes. And, you know, the water coming in the house. But all these different behind the scene things, these are important. And we do need to fill the gap or the void from people retiring and what have you. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take a few minutes, because I always like to educate people or give people the opportunities. And so we'll let you say some things about opportunities or where they can go out there, or even give some insight like we know what you do, we know what you do, but some of the things that's behind the scene work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I am a marketing and communications, so I might exaggerate slightly, but I like to say it's the fastest way to 100K. It's going to take a lot of hard work. I don't want to underscore or sell that short. This is a tough industry. But like Caleb has said, think of the benefits, right?
Right.
You've got, I've never seen layoffs in our industry. I've never seen an economic downturn in water. It's only we need more people. They're going to train and provide you money for your own education. They're going to provide you a retirement account, even some state pensions and local government pensions. They're going to put you on a team and let you decide once you're in what career path you want to go to. Now, it is challenging to pick apart the pathway to get in, but the fastest way is your local community college. So here in this area where we are right now, San Bernardino Valley College has fantastic water technology programs. So does Santiago Canyon College, LA Trade Tech, even Copper Canyon up in the high desert and Victorville. They all have water technology. So then you go and you can go in the water or the wastewater classes, but you're going to have to explore, like Caleb said, take a tour, talk to people, ask Caleb. Everybody is happy to answer your questions. Get in there. One of the careers, I want to give you an example that one of the best ones I think is information technology or electrical and instrumentation tech. Wow. You probably remember the electricians. They were all a little crazy or a little wild on the job site, but instrumentation tech is so critical to our world right now. Think how wired and Wi-Fi and instrumentation and connected they can control these pumps and pipes, and even during the fires, they have to remotely turn the pumps on from these SCADA or these information technology systems. So we need technicians who know coding. You know, every manufacturer basically uses their own coding. So they need to learn those things. You can go to your community college. LA Trade Tech has a fantastic electrical instrumentation, get your apprenticeship, and you're down a pathway to a job that's never going away, only incredibly in demand, and none of the water districts can find instrumentation techs.
Wow, that's great information. You know what, Caleb, thank you for coming because we're nearing our end Zoom time. And we want to get a chance to say goodbye to you the right way before you go. And also, we'll be reaching out to you because I want to further this. Like maybe one time you can have a chance to come in the studio because what we want to do, we want to just keep going. We want to keep pushing this because, first of all, we need water and people need jobs, good paying jobs. And this is going to be like a hand-in-hand thing. It's going to help us. It's going to help you. It's going to help everybody. So thank you again for coming on the show. And we will be seeing you again. Goodbye. Everybody say bye to Caleb.
Hey,
Bye,
thanks,
Caleb.
Bye, Caleb. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye, I appreciate it.
Thank
Thank
No,
you.
I
You guys
appreciate
have
you.
everyone.
You've been a great help. Thank you. Great information. Congratulations on your new position, too.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
That's great. Yeah. Yeah. Good example of how you know you work hard and you move up.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And that's the thing about it. You know, when you work hard, you should be rewarded for it.
Yeah.
When you take the time out to study and learn, you should be rewarded for it. You know, good compensation for good work.
As we talk about water, we cannot leave out some other topics. Agriculture, right? What agriculture in California is huge, and
Right.
we
You
need
gotta eat.
water, right? So 2/3 of the fruits in the nation come from California, right? 1/3 of the vegetables are grown here, and they all need water, right? California is the 4th largest producer of wine in the world.
Yes,
Right.
can't forget about wine.
So that's why we need to think of those when we're moving water around California and those interests. We also have environmental and fish restoration efforts because California, we're many environmentalists here. For example, we've even moved some dams on the Klamath River, and there's salmon going where they haven't been for 150 years, all the way up to Oregon. So as we manage water in California, we have these competing interests, but we love our jobs, and all these interests make our state fantastic and beautiful, so we can't leave those aspects. There's so much to discuss in water.
So it's not only survival for drinking water go, but it's economics too.
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right, good. So, you know, next time we have an opportunity, because like I said, we thank Stephen Tucker because he's the GM out at the Water Replenishment District. We should go there and just have a group go, because a lot of times the kids, in a way, kids get an advantage because they get to go on these different trips and stuff. But older people, such as me, when I went there, I was just so impressed. And you learn all these things about the UV rays. You think of UV rays and how that goes and how that helps to purify the water and all these different things. I mean, it was interesting. I was like, wow, because you never think, all the technology and all the things that they use. You go in that little plant and you're thinking, oh, it comes in poo-poo and it goes out crystal clear and you're drinking it. So.
Yeah, and Caleb, he's a T5 operator. That's the highest you can get. So he, there's drinking water side and wastewater side. So
Yeah.
actually he's a T5 on the wastewater side, but he's also now getting on the drinking water side. So these are very high-tech.
Yes,
Jobs.
that is high tech.
And it goes deeper, Cornelius. You can take a tour of San Bernardino systems up here. They have some very advanced treatment works and large spreading basins. So, the deeper you go and the more you see, I think the more impressed people will be. It's a great
Yes.
story.
So I think since you're connected and you have access to those places, so now that I'm your friend, see, hello friends. Now that I'm your friend,
Come on over.
Maybe I can get connected too, and we can go to those facilities, right?
Of course, all these facilities do tours all the time, and they're
Okay.
operating 24/7. They're very used to it.
Oh, okay, good.
Even the public can contact their local water system or wastewater plant and find out when they're doing public tours.
In this area that we're at right here, Loma Linda, the Inland Empire Utilities Agency is one of the states and one of the nation's best water and wastewater utilities, and they have a brand new regional plant 5 that's just spectacular, well worth a tour.
Okay, great, great. You know what? We're about to run out of time, but let me make a couple announcements really quick. Next, my next show, 2 weeks from today, we're going to have Jack Quay here, and she was a real interesting lady, and we're going to talk about some things that we're doing in the education field. Because I am the Renaissance Man, and I have the Renaissance Man School of Etiquette and Life Skills, and we've been doing stuff with that too with junior high schoolers. So we'll be talking about that. And then this month, we have a fifth Saturday rather. So you know what fifth Saturday means? No, it means that way we're gonna have Jacoy James Pugh on here on her show, and boy, she's very interesting. She's a lady. She has her own magazine company. And so you want to tune in on that day because she's part of the E Factor radio show. And of course, we have my show, the E Factor radio show. I mean, she's part of the E Factor radio network. And then we have the Cool Vet show with Charles Whitehead. And then we have her show, Jacoy James Pugh, with her magazine and all those different things. She's a CEO, a real sharp lady. So if you are interested in joining our network, all you got to do is give me a call or email info@therenaissanceman.com. Or you can call me at 951-238-4720. Or you can just watch the show and then you'll Google me or something, The Legend, and I'll be there.
The legend, the myth, the great man.
Okay. Well, hey, thank you both. I really
Thank
enjoyed
you,
having you out on
Cornelius.
each of you. Thank you. Okay, but one more time before we go. Give us your website.
My website, I'm on Instagram. Water is hiring, man. Come
Yes.
on in. Water is hiring on Instagram.
All right, Water is hiring. Everyone hear that? Okay, we're going to play some of this funky music that we created just for this show, and then we're going to say goodbye to you, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Cornelius.